Hi, I'm Thomas from Raving and I'm gonna show you the tutorial to our asset on Asset Store via Magic Gestures. So I'm gonna start with an empty project and I'm gonna import our asset into a Raving folder. We're gonna import everything that's included in the package to be able to start working with it. The asset package contains all the necessary stuff that we will need to start up our project. It contains example scene, as well as all the scripts and all other utilities that you will be able to use for your own projects. So in order to do that, we'll head to player settings, and in XR settings we select OpenVR as a main VR asset, and next we're gonna head to package manager to download and install OpenVR package. We search for OpenVR and then click install. After importing the packages, we need to go to our scene and check if the camera is set up properly to work with VR. We have to change the selected eye from none or left or right to both. To finish setting up the VR project, we also need to set up some inputs to work with the controllers. In order to do that, we go to Edit, Project Settings, and going from Player to Input, and here we have to edit all the axes that we are using in order to implement all the features that we need. We have to add few axes and fill the data accordingly to match all the exact names that are inside the project. You have to be careful when filling input information because project will not run correctly if there are any mistakes. We provided in documentation more information about this input configuration, so you can copy it from there. Let's just take some time to set up names and positive values and types for both left hand and right hand. We are just gonna be using triggers and menu buttons, so it's not gonna be very complicated. So now that we have all this set up, we can go to our scenes folder and start up the sample scene. If we've done everything correctly, we should be able to start up the scene and start working with the project. this should have fixed the errors for us. Let's see if we can play the project now and we see no other errors. Okay, it looks like everything is fine. The VR headset is working. Let's just make the game window bigger. Okay, so I'll grab a headset with one hand and a controller with another, and I'm gonna show you that indeed the input and the gestures are working properly in the sample scene. You can see I'm moving the wand, I'm entering the menu, I'm making gestures, so everything seems to be working fine. Let's put it back for a moment and go back to our project. Hit stop, and we will go to a new scene. We'll create a new scene and show you how to incorporate in it all the important let's create empty game object called game and add components to it. The main component that we're gonna need is a magic game component, as well as wand manager and the gesture tracker. The magic game component needs magic data asset, that is a serialized game data that we prepared before. It contains perceptron neural networks as well as the collection of gestures. For the gesture tracker, we also need to set a reference to a gesture trail prefab that we also included in our package. Next up, let's create another empty game object that we're gonna call gesture learner. This will be the asset that will be used to recognize gestures as you perform them. Again, we have to add gesture learner component, and we can, as we can see, we can set up many parameters for the neural network. Another empty game object will be our menu object. Let's rename it to menu. We can add a component which is called main menu. Afterwards, we need to set up children. Our main menu will consist of 3 different views. We create them as children. So it's gonna be, first it's gonna be called spell edit view. The second one we're gonna call welcome view. That's gonna be shown in the beginning. And the third one is called spell train view, which will be displayed when learning spells. I almost forgot that we're gonna need another one. It's gonna be called spell book view, and we're gonna display it in the beginning when we fire up the menu to show all the available spells. Okay, let's rearrange the children a little bit. Let's put a welcome view on the top. Basically, let's put the views in the order that we're gonna see them. So, welcome, spellbook, spell edit, and train. Next, we're gonna fill welcome view with the image that's gonna be displayed. We've prepared special script for it. that is gonna make the image clickable and selectable in a VR. As a child of our object picture, we have added empty game object, but I think it's better to delete it and create an image object. This object should have all the necessary components to make it visible in the screen. So we only need to adjust the image that's gonna be displayed. And now let's put all the references so that view can see the picture can see the image. That's the basic stuff. So let's set the picture parameters right now so it's displayed properly on the screen. Because it is displayed in a word space, not in the screen space, the parameters will not be exactly as a screen resolution. So depending on the position of the camera and its settings, we can have different values. For me, 100 and 100 of height and width is working, as well as scale of 100. Alright, and just to see that this will be properly displayed on the screen, we'll add some text. Let's change its position and context. Perfect. Okay, as you can see in other game objects, we also have some empty slots for references. So we're just gonna go over them and set them really quick. Like here, for example, we can set up the prefab for the slot in a spellbook that we're gonna see later as we open the spellbook. Another slot prefab, and one for the color selection and for the effect selection. Okay, all the names, as you could see before, they were called prefabs. Here we have preview slot, which is actually a reference to the prefab instance, so we have to add it to the hierarchy. Okay, nextable, we're gonna have to fill the last remaining element, that is, as in previous example, there's no word prefab in the reference name. That means that we have to reference instances from the scene hierarchy. We could do that manually, but to make things a little bit faster, I'm just gonna go to another scene and copy paste them. Okay, we can open two scenes in the same time by opening additive scene and see where in the hierarchy are the necessary elements. Let's just select them all and copy. Make sure that copied elements are the children of the spell tree view. Okay, we don't need the scene anymore, we can close it for now. Now, let's set the references. Fortunately, the names match. They may not be in order, but it's not a very big problem. Alright, the last one doesn't match, but this is exception. Great, now we've set everything correctly, we can actually see the prefabs floating around in the air. The big bubble is a spell slot. We can see also 2 progress bars and 2 labels. Alright, so we can close everything for now. And let's add one more element to the scene. The last element is gonna be empty game object that we're gonna call player. We have to place our camera object as a child of the player object. Okay, but we also want some elements to be rendered differently than the others. That's why we're gonna create another camera object that we're gonna call UI camera. The UI camera is gonna display some things like once and other UI elements, while the main camera is gonna display everything else. Let me just fast forward a little bit. I will spawn 2 want prefabs and add it as children to player, and I'm gonna create ground game object and set its size so the player has something to stand upon. Okay, moving forward. Let's set some actual game parameters. Let's go to game object and see what we can do. We can now change the size and the content of a magic effect array. Each element of the array corresponds to the spell that we created with gesture learner. We actually prepared some prefabs for you to use, but you can create some new ones. Of the screen, I added one new to the project, which is called Cube Launcher, and it has component Bullets Launcher. Let's add a simple cube to it, and we'll be using this one as a bullet. Alright, now we can save the scene and start it to see if it's gonna work. I hit play. Let's open the menu. Here we can see the spells that are inside the neural network. Let's just draw one of them, and as we can see, the prefab spawned in the end of the wand, and this is the cube that we've created. We can also do another gesture, but it's gonna spawn the same cube because we've added the same effect in the game object. Okay, we can also try to add a new gesture by going to menu and selecting an empty spot. But wait, there's something wrong. This UI element is floating in the air. We have to fix that. Okay, let's stop the game and find the game object spell train view that is floating in the air. And here it is. Okay, now that we've done all the changes, we can save the project and hit play once again. Alright, but before we do that, I forgot about a few other details. Let's get to it right now. We have to go to player and change the camera parameters. We've seen before that the ones were a little bit cut. It's because clipping planes. Let's adjust them accordingly. Okay, but we don't want to see the ones in these positions. They are interrupting a little bit. Let's just change the positions of each of the ones so they don't get in the way. Okay, right now I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about spells and neural networks. I've already explained how the effects are connected to the spells inside of neural network. We can go to play mode again, and now we will see that when clicking in a menu, we will have no spells. Okay, let's learn new spell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the progress bar filled, and we've created whole spell. Again, 5. Okay, one more time. Third spell is gonna be horizontal. Nice. Now that we have 3 one-handed spells, let's use 2 hands. And 5. Okay, we had a vertical, let's go horizontal right now. 5. Alright. Now we can check if the gestures that we've learned in the neural network are actually recognized. They are. They are all spawning the same effect, the cube one, but still we can see the difference in colors. Depending on the spell color, the spawned object color is also adjusted. Depending on which parameters you've set in the neural network, some gestures might be easily recognizable or not. For example, neural network has a problem with recognizing my vertical two-handed gesture. Let's try again. Horizontal works fine. Vertical, not really. Again, oh yeah, there's that one. We can also try some different shapes, and depending on parameters, they will either be recognized as gestures that we already created or not recognized at all. Okay, let's clear the neural network again. Clear the console, and I'm gonna show you some other interesting stuff. Let's make the window bigger so that we can actually see all the gestures that we're learning, and put a little bit of focus on the console. As we create new gestures, we're gonna have some information about the neural network. For the learning, 5 is not an arbitrary number. It's a parameter that you can choose in a gesture learner. After each gesture we create, we get information about created neural network, about its parameters, layers, and neurons. Let's just add one more gesture. And now, as we perform the gestures, you can see that the debug information are showing if gesture was recognized, what error it produced, and if it was one-handed or two-handed. We can obviously edit already created gestures. We can change the effect that they're gonna spawn. Here we can see all the effects that we added in a magic game object. We can also change the color. And of course, we can change the gesture itself. And by using different gesture, we can see that we're spawning objects with different color. Of course, you can play more with different parameters. You can change all the parameters of neural network. You can change gesture prefabs, or you can change UI prefabs. Our system is designed so that with a little bit of work, you can make it your own. I hope that tutorial answers some of your questions. If you have more, feel free to contact us.